Okay, good morning, everybody. Thanks again for showing up here early on this Tuesday morning. Lots to cover today, so I'm going to jump right into things. Our focus this morning is going to be on our English department from a curricular perspective. I'm going to spend some time talking about our Recharter process through Atlanta Public Schools, which happens every 5 years, and also give an update on some of our work in the operations department, specifically talk about some of the renovations that have happened to our space over the last couple of years and our plans for work this summer. Before I do that, a couple quick shout outs for teachers and just sort of events that have been happening in the life of the school over the last couple of weeks. At our most recent all faculty meeting, we gave out another RMO. For those of you that have attended a couple of these calls, this is now a tradition. You recognize what this is. RMO stands for round metal object. These sort of originated as a military tradition to men and women that were exemplifying the virtues of whatever sort of branch of the military they were associated with. We've adopted this practice at Atlanta Classical, and RMO, or our RMO rather, features our school, its motto and its pledge. And it's just become a really sort of special feature of our monthly all faculty meetings, where we honor the excellent work that one of our faculty members has done. In this case, it was Miss Casey Ham, who has been our second grade teacher since our school's founding back in 2014. A number of folks that I talked to at the auction a couple of weeks ago sort of organically brought up how much Miss Ham has meant to their families over the last few years. You know, she's a person that during COVID went individually to the home of every single student that she taught, kind of met them in person on the porch in a mask, hosted play dates for students in playgrounds outside, spends most of her weekends at NYO or other athletic facilities around Atlanta, attending student sports games. I can't think of someone who is more deeply connected to her students and whose life and way of being is a kind of expression of our mission. She intends with every part of her day and her work to lead her students toward living virtuous and intelligent lives. And we're really proud to have Ms. Ham as part of this team. She is such a valued member of our faculty and is certainly beloved by our families. So if you see Ms. Ham over the next couple of weeks, be sure to congratulate her. This award for her was certainly overdue and very much deserved. At the end of last week, myself, Mr. Sheps, Mr. Clausen, Mrs. Huff, Mr. McClatchy, and Mrs. O'Rourke were all in Savannah with our seniors on our senior trip, which included a Savannah Bananas baseball game. I'm not certain if any of you have heard of this group before, but Savannah Bananas is basically the Harlem Globetrotters, but for baseball, and they are hysterical and put on an amazing show. So this was like our mystery event that we did with our students. We spent some time out on Tybee Island. We did a historical tour of the city, went to some major landmarks around Savannah. The trip is not exclusively educational or even primarily. In a way, what we want to communicate to our seniors in their final semester with us at Atlanta Classical is that we really genuinely like them as people and want to create space just to spend time with them in their final months at Atlanta Classical. This is a trip that I look forward to every year. It's one that I've done since our first senior class graduated. And is always a highlight of the spring semester. And I think when I tell other friends in education that one of the best things that I get to do every spring is go on a trip with our seniors, it's sort of strange to hear that, right? It should be that student trips are a burden and a thing that you dread and you know, are up late at night worrying about. But to be with our students, and I think in part because of the work of this education, they are a delight to be with. And so this trip was just a joyful and I don't know, it was really fun. It's just excellent to be with them. I think it speaks a lot to kind of the culture of the institution. It also says a lot about you all as parents and the kids that you're raising, that they are just such a delight to be with. So again, this is a thing that happens every spring. I should note this is the kind of thing that our Cavalier Fund, right, our general fund actually provides for. We're able to offer this trip to all of our students at a discounted price, and you know, everything that happens sort of outside of the school day is partially funded by what you all give to the institution. So I should also say thanks to all of you for making things like this possible for our school. Sort of on that note, I should have said something on the previous slides, but next week or the week following, I need to coordinate with Mrs. Franklin. I am going to be giving an overview of our general fund and what it means. I think I've received some questions, perhaps even since the auction, about, hey, can you give us some clarity on what the Cavalier Fund is for? What do auction dollars go toward? There are so many incredible programs and initiatives that are sort of wholly the result of the generosity of our family. So I'm going to spend some time kind of detailing what that money actually goes to on a future call. Also, I you know, in giving an account of what the last week has entailed, should absolutely shout out our middle school musical, Dear Edwina JR, which was hysterical. The students did a fabulous job. There is so much artistic talent in our community, and always amazing to see students who are perhaps quiet and unseen at times on campus just completely come out of their shells when on stage, and that happened in a couple cases. Some of these students really surprised me, and it was a delightful performance. I know that there's going to be another musical later this spring, put on by our high schoolers. I think it's Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. So put that on your calendars. But hopefully a lot of you get to attend this performance this past weekend. All right, so let me just say a quick word about our English faculty and the work that they are doing in grades. Well, really, kindergarten through 12th grade. I'm going to give some broad commentary. The folks that I have here on this slide are our upper school English teachers. You'll see Mrs. Holt in the top left, Mr. McClatchy in the top middle, Mrs. Moss, who's our department chair, in the top right, Dr. KT on the bottom right, and then Mrs. O'Rourke in the bottom left. There is such a wide and impressive array of experience on this team. Mr. McClatchy, many of you might know this, is a accomplished poet who's had his work published in a variety of really impressive literary journals. I would encourage you to just search his name and his poetry. We actually spent some time as a faculty at our most recent all faculty meeting reading some of his poetry together and actually reflecting on how it is sort of a commentary on our work. He is a really impressive writer, a great talent to have with us. He was teaching poetry at the University of Florida before he came to ACA. Mrs. Moss, again, who is our department chair, has been in education, teaching English at the college and the high school level, really for the last 30, 40 years. Previous to joining us at ACA, she was at Whitfield, but is just a thoughtful and incredible leader that we're lucky to have. And I'll also make a comment about Dr. KT, who has her PhD in philosophy. It was at the University of Cambridge and I think the University of Durham or Bristol, perhaps in the UK. But she actually spends time specifically working with our lower school students in our writing program, which I'll talk about briefly here. But this is a team that is just devoted to the excellence in students' capacity to read and write beautifully. In K through 6, right, students are receiving a strong foundation through our Literacy Essentials program, which is our explicit phonics program. Kind of I've talked about this on a few of our calls, but our theory is that language ought to be accessed intentionally, which is to say we shouldn't just use context clues and memorization for students to acquire language, but instead we should break the art of reading up into its component parts, right? The English language is made up of phonograms, 72 individual phonograms that have a kind of organized relationship to each other. And if students can understand that relationship, they can acquire mastery of words and how they're built, right? Kind of through the process of learning how to spell them. And then there's a transition that happens around 2nd grade, really, where students go from learning how to read to reading in order to learn, right? They're expanding their vocabulary. They are now opening books and sort of expanding their knowledge by actively reading. Starting in the 3rd grade, we actually begin the work of explicit writing instruction, and we use a program called IEW, which is Institute for Excellence in Writing, which is an excellent program in part because it doesn't try to be overly innovative. It breaks writing down into 3 parts, into invention, structure, and style. Invention is what to say, right? Structure is how you organize what you say, and then style is how to say it. And what we do is we give students the work of the masters, right? The greatest who have ever done this, whether that's Sojourner Truth or Steinbeck or Hemingway, whatever it might be, and sort of intentionally lead students into modeling what excellent writing looks like. Right? If we talk about just that first stage, invention, I think many of you probably have experience as a writer of staring at a Word doc on your computer or looking at a blank piece of paper in front of you and thinking, I have no idea where to start. And this is the work of invention, right? How do you know what you ought to say? And so with our students, what we do is actually give them a great piece of writing and have them look through it and say, students, what are the key words in this sentence? What are the most important lines in this sentence? Let's think about how this excellent writer built meaning, right? How did they form this argument? Let's look at the words and phrases and quotations that sort of give structure and give that kind of focus and life to this sentence. So it's sort of invention, but from the opposite direction, right? Rather than giving them a blank page, we give them a page that is full of excellent writing and lead them to think very carefully about how that writer built a kind of meaningful sentence through their work. And so this art of imitation, right, of mimesis, we think is essential to learning really any skill, whether it's how to do calculus or how to write. And so really it forms the basis of our writing instruction at ACA. In terms of how we teach students how to structure their writing, we work very intentionally with 9 specific models of writing. And that is not to say that there are only 9 ways to write an essay or write a short story, but it is to say that students need some structure to exist within before they can be creative, before they can be inventive. Right, you'll hear folks kind of ridicule the 5-paragraph essay as kind of overly restrictive, but we think that it actually has a purpose in students learning how to write well. And our hope is that by the time students are, say, writing their senior thesis in their 12th grade year, where they're putting together 12 to 15 pages of coherent, intelligent writing, they have left these 9 structures behind and are kind of building beyond those. But in order to write well, it requires that careful attention to these foundational works of knowing what to say, knowing how to organize it, and then the style element is how to say it. And so we're thoughtful again about fostering students with sort of grammatical patterns, with descriptive vocabulary, with literary devices that gives them a unique voice. And what that looks like is even insisting on certain grammatical patterns existing in their sentences, or certain descriptive vocabulary kind of playing a role in their writing. Again, it can be very prescriptive. We're building very intentionally, as opposed to just saying, we expect that all of you have amazing ideas and a robust vocabulary and perfect grammar, so go. Instead, we start at the foundation and we build up. One other comment here in our English program at Atlanta Classical is that we want for students to build their own libraries. Every book that a student reads at ACA, starting in the middle school, they keep. And so by their 12th grade year, they have a beautiful library of some of the greatest works in the tradition, whether that's To Kill a Mockingbird or the Iliad or Brothers Karamazov or the Sea Wolf. They will, by the time they leave this place, carry with them an incredible library of annotated works that they have thought carefully about. So 7th and 8th grade literature, right? They're going to be doing weekly grammar. They're working through just the 8th grade curriculum is one that I taught for years and is one of my favorite curricula on campus. It's just an incredible compilation of works. 9th grade, they go into classical lit. 10th grade, they do British literature. 11th grade, American literature, right? They're reading folks like Flannery O'Connor, Nathaniel Hawthorne. What else do they do? They do Mark Twain, Robert Penn Warren. It's an impressive list. And then in 12th grade, modern European literature, and then the senior thesis is what they do in the second semester. And that's actually the class that I teach here at ACA alongside of Mr. Sheps. And this is just one other comment about our English program, is that writing replaces tests in upper school English. And I think this quotation kind of gets at the heart of that choice. The struggle of writing, linked as it is to the struggle of thinking and to the growth of a person's intellectual power, awakens students to the real nature of learning. One of the conversations that I have with students, often early in their education, is them saying, look, it's all clear in my mind, but when I put it down on paper, it's not clear. How is this lost in translation? And they're perplexed. And what I often have to sort of say very gently is that if it's not clear on paper, perhaps it isn't as clear in your mind as you expect it is. We think the ability to kind of articulate yourself in the written word is one of the most powerful learning experiences that a student can undergo, to make your thoughts clear. And there's a difference between the spoken word and the written word. The spoken word is always subject to qualification. The spoken word is such that you can say something wrong and then hedge and then back up and start again, because your listener is listening in real time. Whereas the spoken word, or the written word rather, is sort of perfected thought. You don't have the ability to kind of grab the reader and say, whoops, I made a mistake, let me go back and correct that. No, it is as you present it. And so it requires a kind of perfection and a kind of, I don't know, excellence that the spoken word doesn't require, which is why we put so much emphasis on writing well, writing beautifully across the upper school. This again is our kind of curriculum guide in the upper school at ACA. And again, the literature curriculum was very straightforward. 9th grade classical lit, everyone is taking it. 10th grade British literature, 11th grade American lit, and then 12th grade modern European literature with the senior thesis. I'm going to keep showing this slide just so that you all can kind of grow accustomed to what our high school curriculum actually looks like. And I'll work through a couple different disciplines. We talked about math recently, or science rather, but we'll talk about math soon. It's important to me that you all, again, sort of know exactly what graduation requirements are for our students. All right, let me say something briefly about our Recharter process with Atlanta Public Schools. As many of you know, we recently completed our accreditation. Accreditation is done through a third body called Cognia. They accredit the majority of the independent private schools across our country. They're kind of the essential accrediting body that everyone looks to as the authority on the subject. I shared this at my call last week, but I'll say it again because it is a point of pride, frankly. Our accreditor, who has been in the work of education for the last 42 years, said that Atlanta Classical submission was one of the best he's ever seen, which, again, we were really proud of. We put tremendous work into kind of building a portfolio of work that describes what we've been working on over the last 5 years at Atlanta Classical. His official report will come out in about a week's time, which we'll make public. But again, the team was just thrilled to receive that kind of commentary on our accreditation submission. The Recharter process kind of runs in tandem to accreditation and follows directly upon it. And frankly, when we go to Atlanta Public Schools and say that Cognia has accredited us and even given us very high marks in that accreditation process, that is a kind of feather in our cap to show to Atlanta Public Schools, and is an excellent argument for giving us another charter term. The way that it works is that we receive a 5-year charter term again, and so after every 5 years, we have to go back, sort of look at our charter agreement, look at the performance standards that we are held accountable for, and give a justification for why Atlanta Public Schools should continue to support our existence. So this is really critical, right? This isn't a thing that we talk about every week in our legenda or something, because it's the responsibility of the administration to ensure that this goes smoothly, and we're in constant communication with the leadership at Atlanta Public Schools about sort of where we stand in this process. But this is one of the most important things kind of right alongside of accreditation that's happening every 5 years. Our Recharter is both with Atlanta Public Schools and also with the Georgia Department of Education. And so we submit a single document to both of those bodies, which includes, an executive summary of the work that we've done, a kind of review of our past performance over the last 5 years, any changes that we propose to make to our charter agreement, et cetera. And that application is going to be due at the end of this summer, August 25th. And then there's going to be an interview with the leadership team and the leadership at Atlanta Public Schools, probably in September, and that will conclude the process, and the vote from the school board will happen in September or October. So our charter term technically ends at the end of next school year, and so our new one would begin July 21st of that next year. So we're really confident about the Recharter process. Our students have performed wonderfully, and again, the success of the accreditation process, I think, is a really good sign. All right, so I'm going to give a quick comment here about work that we've done on campus over the last couple of years. I'd hoped that Mr. Rosenzweig would be able to present this himself, but unfortunately he was tied up and had another arrangement this morning, and so you've got me for the entirety of the call. So just a quick summary of what we've done over the last couple of years, starting in the North Building, which is where our kindergarten and first grade students are, and then moving all the way to our modular spaces in the high school. We built a new back office and a student services classroom in the first floor of the North Building, added new ceiling tile with new LED lighting across the North space, and also installed a new HVAC system, which was a massive project. Outside, we remodeled an outdoor classroom, expanded the turf space, which I think is a thing that has excited and thrilled our lower school students more than anything else, and then also resurfaced our tennis court into a multi-purpose pickleball, foursquare, and basketball court, and also installed some new basketball hoops that are just really high quality, and so our team's been able to practice out there when the indoor space has been occupied. In the high school, we've installed 2 new modulars to accommodate for more students. In the South Building, we created new PE offices and a storage closet, and also completely remodeled our cafeteria with new lighting, new flooring, paint pictures, et cetera. And then also we've enhanced our security features across our campus, right, to include a school resource officer that's with us every single day now at ACA. Starting this fall, it was a new thing, a night lock system, which is for when we go into lockdown on our campus. This is a high quality lock that makes it very difficult to enter any of our classrooms with a simple device that we can put right into the ground, a new emergency management system, and a few other items. I've got some pictures here that kind of go through everything that we've done. Expanded turf here in the upper left-hand corner, the new court with the hoops right next to it. Our modulars, which we're calling the Hawk's Nest, and you can imagine the teacher that is named after, Mr. Lawton Hawkins, if you need to know. He frequently just sits on this porch and sort of surveys his domain, so the Hawk's Nest is appropriate. And then, the rest of the pictures here just show many of the renovations that have happened over the last year or two. The cafeteria with our new projection system probably being the most significant. So we also have a major renovation that's going to be happening this summer to our South Building, which is our 2nd through 8th grade space, and then also to the North Building. So we'll talk about both. The South Building is less significant than the North Building, but we're going to be changing the ceiling grid and tiles, installing new LED lights, replacing our gym exterior door. Again, these are sort of minor renovations, but I think will have a significant effect on just student experience. You can see the kind of terrible exterior door that currently leads to the gym, and then you have a picture of what the current ceiling tiles look like, and those are going to be completely replaced this summer with new lights with dimmer switches as well. And then in the North Building is where there's going to be a significant facelift this summer. We're going to be doing a ton of work here. We're going to be ripping out all the carpet and installing new LVT flooring throughout the entire space, including every bathroom. The entire interior of the building is going to be painted. Every bathroom is going to be remodeled with new flooring, removing the tile, a new sink and toilet. We're going to be modifying one of the small bathrooms to make an additional adult bathroom in the space, adding ventilation. The bathroom is going to look completely different. We're also going to be doing some drywall work up on the top floor of the north building, again, to kind of brighten the space and to make it look excellent. I think the LVT flooring replacing the carpet is probably the most significant thing that's going to be happening. But the north building is going to look beautiful by the end of this summer, and really like a different thing altogether. You can see pictures of what things currently look like, and we'll have before and after photos to show y'all at the end of this summer. But this work is going to begin the day that your students leave, and will probably be done by mid-July. So we'll have plenty of time to welcome them back into campus. So again, this is what our current space looks like. All right. So just one other comment here before I let y'all go. We are doing all of this construction work very thoughtfully, with an eye toward a much larger project, which is a thing that we're not really ready to comment on at great length right now, except to say that members of our team are working on it every single day, right? I know that this is probably the top question that families have. They're really interested to know what our future plans are for Atlanta Classical facilities for the next 50 years. And it's obvious that modulars for the high school are not a permanent solution, right? That's a 5 to 10 year solution at the most. And those were installed back in 2016. And so what I can say right now is that this is a top priority of the school's administration. We're receiving tremendous support from the Liberty Classical team, our charter management organization. And as soon as we have an update that we can share, I'll share it on this call first thing. But again, I can say that this is something that members of our team are truly working on every day, building a plan that we'll want to present to you all, but are not yet prepared to share that publicly yet. So please stay tuned and know that we're working on it. All right. Thanks for your attention. It's 9 a.m. I hope you all have a wonderful morning. Thanks, everybody.